Hi, you guys. You're welcome back to Wild Men Slept with Raya. I hope you've been good. I hope you've been happy. I hope everything has been fine. It's been a minute, but here I am. So, today I am going to be talking about the other side of need. A very wise person once said that everything that you need in God is on the other side of obedience. And it really stayed with me. And so today we'll be talking about obedience. Obedience to God is a choice. That is one thing I want you to know. It is a choice. It is a choice to align yourself to the will of God. It is a choice to follow a certain set of instructions or commands. It is a choice to submit yourself to God. It is a choice to be willing to put God's will above your desires. Obedience is not easy. Obedience to God is not always a bed of roses. But Matthew 7 verse 14 tells us that it's worth it. I read, "For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few." For me, this just says that it's worth it. Yeah, it might seem painful as at the time when God says you should do this or do that, but it's worth it. Even our Lord Jesus endured the cross for the glory ahead. How much more us? Obey, because at the end of the day, it's always worth it. Obedience in the little things and the big things. Obedience in the little things could look like give this person some amount of money or keep quiet. It could even be as simple as walk away from there. Obedience in the big things, those are the ones that, they seem like heavy things when the Lord asks you to drop all your life savings, or staying still sometimes can be a big thing. For me, I feel like there's no distinguishing one from the other. Obedience has to be obedience. You cannot say, I will obey in the little things and they will suffice for the big things, or I will obey in the big things and they will cover up the little things I didn't obey in. Delayed obedience is disobedience. Selective obedience is disobedience. Do you know that these days, you'd want to do something? Doing things are so easy. Like, let's say you want to wash plates or something. But at the point where it becomes an instruction, that's where the problem is. That is where the issue is. When a particular task that you plan on doing before becomes an instruction, like you're washing plates, you planned to wash the plate normally, and then your mom comes or somebody comes, wash that plate. It becomes harder to do it. It's like, I wanted to do it already. Why should I now do it now? Do you understand? So also it is with God. You might plan to give at a certain time. Okay, when Sunday comes, I'll give my offering. When I see a beggar on the road, I will help. But then he might tell you, go and meet the person. Don't wait for the person to come and meet you. Go and meet someone and talk to the person. You might have set a date already in your head. Okay, I will go and meet this person at this time. I'll go and meet this person here and here. But when he tells you to do it, when it becomes an instruction, it becomes hard. And that is another way to show you that the flesh, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is not. I like saying that. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is not. It's a very interesting thing. That flesh, very, very interesting person. So, when it becomes an instruction, it becomes hard to do. And that shows you how much the devil doesn't want you to obey. It shows you how stagnant the devil wants you to be. And I hope that after hearing this, you would obey more. Listen more for the voice of God and obey. Because it would really help you. It would really help you. Let's talk about Abraham. Genesis 12 verse 1 to 3 gives us insight on the instruction that the Lord gave Abraham and the blessings attached to them. Now, for God to trust Abraham with such a big thing as at that time, even now, it still seems it will still be a big thing for some people. Yeah, because your whole life is in a particular place. So for God to trust Abraham with such a big thing, he must have had a track record. Abraham must have had a track record of obedience in the little things. I hope you catch my drift. He must have had a track record of obedience in the little things for God to be so sure that when I tell this person to do this, he would do it. So he could trust him with blessings, among many other things. True obedience comes from a place of total surrender. If you have not decided, like I said, it is a choice. If you have not made a choice to surrender totally to the will of God, to his instructions, to his word, to everything that he asks you to do, or to the life set for us as Christians, then you cannot obey fully. You cannot say you need God's grace most times to obey certain instructions, and if you have not surrendered yourself totally, you won't have access to that, and you won't be able to obey. It's just it's like dominoes. If you don't do one thing, the rest will not follow. Luke 6 verse 46 to 49 talks about how obedience deepens your roots or your foundation in God. As you obey God, you deepen your trust in him. And for a building to stand strong, you must have a strong foundation. So when you deepen your foundation or your roots in God, you're building your trust on him. You're going deeper. And so anything that comes, whatever flood, whatever trial, whatever tribulation, you understand, it builds your trust in God. You understand that, okay, I'm standing on a firm foundation and I will not be moved. This was why Abraham could rise up early to obey when God asked for his son, because he just knew he had years and years of obedience. He had track record of it, and he has seen what came out of it each and every time that he obeyed. So he knew that, what else could I lose? That is the place of total surrender. He had surrendered himself to God and said, whether or not I like it, my God is my God, and nothing, not even my son, my only son, would come between us. And to prove my love for you, to prove how much I trust you, God, I will obey you. I mentioned earlier that your obedience could be linked to something else. It's like dominoes. It's like a chain reaction. Once you obey, something else happens in line. Take an example, the apostles. Now, they were given the instruction to go and wait. And in waiting, imagine if they did not wait. If the apostles did not wait, they wouldn't have gotten what they got. Acts of the Apostles would not be here. We would not know. It's not like we would not even know. It would not have happened with them, because obviously God will find someone else. But it would not have happened with them. Imagine if they did not wait. How many lives God saved. This is to tell you that your obedience could be tied to someone's salvation. Because when you obey and you give a testimony, or you obey and someone says, they would be like, this your God. What makes you do what you do? What made you do what you did as at that time? And then you explain that it is obedience to God. It is God who gave me this and that, and I understand this, I understand that. The person will be willing to come to your God. Romans 5 verse 19 backs this up. Obedience is not a walk in the dog park. Romans 7 explains to us that it is not always easy. It's not easy, but it is worth it. It is worth it. I promise you, it will always be worth it if only you would obey. Let me share a testimony. So, there was a day in school. There was this missionary that came to my school and spoke to us. And that morning I had learned about, I was reading Acts, and I had learned about how none of them owned anything and none of them lacked because they were so free to give in. And that day the man asked for offering, basically, to support the movement. And I didn't want to. In fact, a lot of us were joking about it. But that still small voice just said it. And sincerely, I was pained to give that money. But I did. eventually. I did. In fact, it was not even eventually. I was bringing it out and I was bringing out the money and I was saying, God, God, God. And then I dropped it. And I kid you not. I was to go home that particular day, so, went home. I kid you not, you guys. I got over times 10 of that money back. And, for me, it just trains my trust and my faith in God. Like, okay, if He tells me to do something, I best do it, because it's not for His own good. It's for my own good. It's training my ears to understand that, okay, it actually trains your ears, because when you obey, when you hear His voice and you obey, you train your ears that, okay, when His voice comes, I know His voice. That's why the Bible says, my sheep knows me and I know my sheep. I know my sheep and my sheep knows me. You don't just know somebody by, spending time with the person. You cannot just spend time with someone and keep quiet. You spend time and communicate. And so he would want to communicate with you more, knowing that His words will not just hit a brick wall. His words will come to pass. You will do what He says you should do. Obedience requires discipline, self-control, will, and a sincere desire to do God's will. Like I said, it is a choice you have to keep making. You cannot just make the decision one day and then the next day is gone. You wake up, the mercies of the Lord are new every morning. Why should your obedience be different? You have to make the decision every day. You have to decide every single day, because it's not easy. It's not easy. It's not always the easiest thing. I kid you not. If anybody's telling you that obedience is easy, that, it isn't. Because the flesh will always be the flesh. It wants to do what it wants to do. But then, the ultimate goal is what? Death to the flesh and life to your spirit. You give life to your spirit by not doing the things of the flesh. You want to use this money to go and flange, but you were asked to give this money. You were asked to sow it. The flesh will want to give you reasons now. You know how you do pros and cons in your mind. The flesh will do that. But the ultimate goal is death to the flesh and life to your spirit. And so you have to do things that will give life to your spirit. One of these things is obedience. You have to obey. You have to learn to obey at every point in time. Not just selective obedience, not delayed obedience, because those are still disobedience. If a bodybuilder wants to be physically fit, he would make a decision every day to wake up as early as possible, eat healthy, go to the gym, and not compromise his routine, basically. That should be our lives. Our life. Yeah. As Christians, there is actually a lifestyle. There is a lifestyle for Christianity. In case you have not heard it before, I'm glad to tell you that there is a lifestyle we're supposed to follow. And a characteristic of that lifestyle is obedience. We live a lifestyle of obedience. We live a lifestyle of submission. If you have not submitted, you find it very hard to obey. Everything, like I said, is all connected. So if only you would obey today, then you would see that things would be settled. I'm not saying you should do it because you want to settle something or because you want something to, you want the blessings. You don't obey from a point of, I need the blessings. So you obey from a point of love. Obedience shows how much you love God too. It's a reaffirmation of love to God. You think God does not want you to reaffirm your love to Him too? Because you would just find out that, okay, no. Like I mentioned earlier, obedience shows how much you love God. It tells God how much you love Him, basically. The Bible itself says that if you love me, you will obey my commandments. John 14 verse 15. So, if you love God, you have no choice but to obey. Love is a full package. It comes with trust, it comes with submission, it comes with respect, it comes with every single thing. So if you actually claim the love that you claim to have for God should be evident in all areas. I'm not just talking about obedience right now, in all areas, including obedience. If you have successfully gotten to the end of this podcast, I'd like to say thank you for listening in. I pray that the Lord helps you obey at every point in time, no matter how hard or easy it may seem. I'd love to hear feedback from you guys. We are on Twitter, on Instagram, so you can just talk to us. You can send us an email too. I would put a link where everything is so that you can have easy access to us. Thank you so much. God bless you and have a wonderful day.